So you started off at 18, you started off doing guest lists, which is like $3 a head. You don't have like much money floating around. How did you turn that lack of resources into a skill and a blessing, as opposed to it being, a negative when you begun that career in nightlife?
It's like a pretty interesting one on that. It does roll into all the stuff we talked about. So when I was going through that stuff, when my parents were having the issues, and I moved a lot. So I lived with like my grandparents, my aunt and uncle, at times with my dad on the weekends. I lived in like some stupid amount of houses, like say 16 houses before I was 21 or something. So because of that, I was at a different football club than I was at school. And then I didn't have any school friends in that football club. Then I worked it down the road in a place called Vermont, and nobody from my school or my football club worked at that place. And then I'd been at another school before that. So back then, again, you're not talking, I effectively was fucking Facebook, so I was meeting all these people and I'm really generally interested in people. So like, I'm always like, I would collect people like Pokémon, because I talk to them and I want to hear their story. So, then I remember who they are and whatever. Yeah. So as time went along, that sort of negativity of having to move all the time and sort of being in the shitty homes and whatever turned into a positivity, because when I became a club promoter, I was like, okay, well, I know everybody. So I was able to give tickets and stuff, and like that's something that's easy to do now, because effectively they're influencers. But back then it was like people knew who I was because I was moving all the time, and then they connect the dots and whatever it was. So I started to make money off that, but it wasn't at the beginning. It was all about free drinks, free entry, and making some money. It was only when I started to like do well out of it, and I'd make like $200-300 off a $3 guest list. And back then, what used to happen was your name would go viral. So people wouldn't know who you were, but they knew, like Kyle Hands, my ex-business partner, still one of my best friends. But we were the same. So me and him were like, people would be like, Danny Grant. Like years and years later, I'd be like, oh, my name's Danny. Like, what, Grant? Like, fuck, bro, I use your guest list at this club for years, So I had a good network that I built, and then they told people their names because they used to get $5 off. So then I started to make like $200-300, and I was only 18, just out of school. I worked at Fitness First for like a couple of weeks. That was it. And then I was like, I reckon I can just do this, because my mates were getting paid as tradies for like $180. Like they were getting paid less than I was, and I was getting free piss. And at the time, like that's what they were spending their money on anyway. Free entry at everywhere, because I guest lists all over the place. And then I was going and picking up these envelopes. And then, so I started to do that, and I started selling tickets. And then what I started to do, which is really cool, is I knew a lot of people, because I grew up again in a rough area, who sold drugs. So I was like, bro, take these tickets. And I'm like, here's these events for whatever. I just selling the drugs, flip these tickets. So then they would sell like 7-10 tickets, and I would sell. I remember doing one at Evolution back in the day, and I sold 150 tickets. And they're like, how? And I didn't even go. And basically what it was whoever was connected to whoever was, they just needed them. So I was selling them all and collecting the cash from them, and they would get their $5 and then from whatever they were selling, So they were becoming like a bit of a Van Wilder one-stop shop. And I used that network to build it up. And then I started making like $500, $600, $700. And it doesn't sound like a lot now, but when you're an 18-year-old kid and your friends are making 180 on the first year apprentice wage, I was like a millionaire. And then I wasn't paying for alcohol. And then still, even then, it wasn't like it was a thing that I thought about, I'm going to do this and this is going to become my full-time job. And then I put together a pitch, and I gave it to Billboard, and I was like, I'm going to run your side room. And then I did the old, well, otherwise I'm going to leave somewhere else. And they sort of saw, okay, well, we can have him here, or he's going to go somewhere else. And they gave me a retainer. And that was actually, I remember it was $500 a week. At that point, I did that. And then around that same time I did an event, I made $2,500. And I thought I was a multi-millionaire.
I had that exact same experience. I was working for Steve Brown in Geelong at Toast. And my first party I ever ran, we cleared $2,500, and I remember being like, huh. I know that exact same feeling.
Yeah, and I was like, I've actually got to find it, but it's like I had it rolled out, and I took a photo of me laying in it, and I was like rolling around. I was like, fuck, I'm never gonna have to work again. Quit my job, and then sort of started to work, and then I started to do events, and I did this, and I started to run club nights, and kind of transpired and like kind of evolved from there. But I was making really great coin, and and at the time, again, coming from a sort of a rougher background, I didn't think about the future. And thank fuck I didn't, because maybe I would have stopped, But at the time I was just like, I was thinking about next weekend. Like, how am I going to go party? Someone would say, we're going here. How am I going to raise the money to do this? And we're going to the pub. Like, I really blew a lot of cash in those first 3 to 4 years. But what I did do was I figured out how to network and create brands and all these different things. And in the wash up, when I decided to become more normal, I had such a great skill set, if that makes sense. So that was basically how the bad life and good life became a positive life. And I didn't want to do what the other boys are doing because I didn't want to go to jail. I didn't want to get in trouble. But at the same time, I was living a very relatively similar life to them, and it felt like I just always had cash and I always did whatever. And that was the people that I saw more than, you know, someone who went to university and learned how to do things and had a traditional job. But I just didn't want to work, bro. I just wanted to have fun all the time. Still do.
Yeah, you still do. Yeah. I mean, it's a good way to be. Like, isn't that the end point? People work their ass off to go have fun. So you can just like have fun and manage to make a good living while also having fun. It's like the actual dream.
100% it is.
The literal dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So the guest list turned into bigger festivals, turned into bigger events, bigger festivals. What was the moment what would you say one of your peak moments was in the nightlife industry?
So overall, I would say it's got to be Hello Sunshine, right? Yeah. So that was basically like when off the back of retiring. I spoke to Kieran from Dole, his name is, from Luck Entertainment, and he was like, "Dude, would you come back and do something?" And I'm like, "Not really, man. Like I'm sort of done. I'm in this alcohol thing now." And then I was like, if I was going to do it, it would have to be something that was for people my age that I could take my kids to, and we can listen to bands that we used to with my friends that now don't listen to new current music, and that lasts for 20 years. And so we did it and we pulled it off.
Framework.
Yeah, and it was and we just I was like, exactly what I wanted was what it was. I had my kids side of stage, meeting Amy Shark and Veronica's. Then I'm in the dance floor later in the night with Grinspoon, which is one of my favorite artists when I was a kid, with my 5 best friends, fucking moshing, you know. So it was exactly what I wanted it to be. But we did, I think it was like 9.5 or something like that the first year, and then the year after was like 11. And that to me was just, it was fucking awesome. You know, and there was surrounded by, it's weird because like the people who were famous when I was a teenager, in my head, are more famous than the people who are famous now. Like, so I'll drop names that I meet or hang around with, or, you know, like the friends of mine now who are way more famous than the people that I listened to as a teenager, but I don't think it like that.
Yeah.
But still to this day, like when I meet guys, like, you know, I said before, like 360, Grinspoon, the Phil Jamison, his name is, Bliss and Essa, I'm nervous to talk to them. And it's so odd because I've met Skrillex, Deadmau5, and no issue. But it's because of when I was younger, they were just these like larger than life icons. And so to do that, even though it might seem strange to others considering the artists that I have worked with, and have guys like, you know, Phil Jamison from Grinspoon, Bliss and Essa, we had fucking Cat Empire, like all these massive artists that I listened to when I was a kid, on stage, watching it, running it, dancing with my friends, being with my kids, like not much beats that. You know, like that was one of the greatest moments of my life. And then second to that was non-related, was Limp Bizkit 2 years ago, Good Things. It was
that was so fun.
Fucking epic.
Yeah,
but that wasn't my event, but yeah.